before we end this, there's still some time left, and I wanted to get into the CCL a little bit, to the extent that we can, and why it exists, and what the purpose behind it is.
So that's the Canadian Centre for Learning, CCL,
Yes.
Canadian Centre for Learning.ca, and I think we also have the .com page. That's an exciting initiative. It started out of Canadian Academics for COVID Ethics, CA4CE,
Hmm.
which is a group that started. Um, when did that one start? I think in spring 2021. And we're now approaching 90 faculty members, mostly from Ontario, tenure track and contract faculty from colleges and universities, all concerned about different aspects of the pandemic response. Many of us also had employment troubles related to those concerns. Some have lost their jobs or contracts. So there was an aspect of both responding to the response and also supporting each other through this phase. And out of that, some 20 to 25 people with a few others started talking about the need to start a new post-secondary system, even, or new post-secondary opportunities from both, I guess, from the teaching and learning perspective. And right now there's 18 founding members. I'm one of them, so I'm not leading that initiative. I'm just one of 18 founding members. We have that website. We have a launch event on April 27th. And then some courses have already started. So I did teach a pilot course in January and February on something I call citizen research. It's a bit like citizen science, which is an new but established field of research and practice where people are involved in, for example, environmental monitoring, collecting environmental data, where government might not always be able to fill that gap, and people started helping, and then researchers became interested in what this means when citizens participate in science. And so I called my course, and I guess what I'm doing much of the time, citizen research, more hands-on than maybe the citizen science concept. And in this case, learning and co-learning with students about how to conduct research into some of the aspects of the pandemic, for example. But obviously that would apply to any topic of interest in society in the future as well. And a colleague taught a permaculture course. So that's those are good examples for me. My course, which I'm offering again starting April 28th, is for an experiment. I don't necessarily want to go completely away from the established post-secondary system. My colleague who's teaching permaculture, the course is directed, and the kind of the idea behind it is independence. So not only in terms of the education system, but also food supply and actual community living, creating independent parallel communities. So there's a lot of that happening in the entire sphere, and it's also part of the CCL initiative when it comes to the education system. So still up in the air where it's going. There's a bit of a pull between, seeing it more as an experiment and um, learning from it for whatever future versus actually going towards a new type of institution that could replace what we have, at least for some students and some professors.
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit before the podcast. In that it would be very difficult to do what the university is doing, but do it better. It's it's almost like you if you to study at the CCL, you really need to want to know the information, and you need to have to really want to learn, because it seems like accreditation is something that is difficult to issue, outside of a university institution, right? And
Yeah,
so
so
that could be a benefit of the CCL,
yeah,
but it makes challenging the institutions difficult.
yeah, all of that is true. So, but it's like we said before. It's not a black and white situation, right? There's so many different people involved that are looking for different things. So, my colleagues who are managing some of the marketing and things like that, they've heard about questions about accreditation, but other people have signed up. So the permaculture course, for example, is running again right now, very successfully. Like people are not interested in or not asking about accreditation, from what I know, right? And then there is models. Even then, if you start thinking about accreditation, so in Ontario, there's private career colleges which are audited and like controlled, or what do you want to call it, by the provincial government. Um, but there is freedom in terms of what they want to offer and to some extent how and so on. So that's something that I had thought for a while as one possible avenue. Creating our own credentials is another. That's something that seems to be happening in the US in some cases, because again, we're not the only one, the only group that is looking into this. So don't want to spread false rumors by naming US institutions, but I know that one is basically saying every course you complete with us, you get this uh, uh, certificate that we issue. And who knows? I mean, if they're doing a good job, this certificate may become very valuable in a pretty short time, right? And we are looking at and talking about, what the benefit for students could be. We do see that job postings usually specify a degree level. So, bachelor, you need at least a bachelor or equivalent. So,
Hmm.
it's often actually de facto pretty open. And I wonder whether there's maybe too much of a sense that you need that specific degree rather than the
Hmm.
contents, as you said. So I think it's more not exclusively, but more a matter of the contents. Like, are you
Hmm.
do you find can you find something that you not only want to learn, but that is applicable, or where you can develop a set of skills and expertise and experience, also practical experience, that gets you into the direction of a job that you can see yourself uh, pursue or hold for a while in your life. That's, I guess, it will require more responsibility from the students, but honestly, in the arts and science, social sciences area, many students get jobs after their degrees, but those jobs are more based on the student's personal interests than on the degree that they receive.
Hmm.
Right, you receive a degree in, I don't know, um, environmental studies because that's what you were interested in, or psychology or something, but you become, let's say, a salesperson for a specific object in an area that you were interested in, where there's
Hmm.
maybe a faint connection to your degree. That's very different from engineering or from medicine, or whatever, where you are prepared for specific jobs.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it's almost like the what our representation of learning is almost over time become sort of mismatched with what's actually the contents. And so it could be that in the future the paper isn't necessarily as relevant as, and as you're alluding to already, it's already kind of going that way where the paper is less relevant than the interest itself, interest and maybe the general skills you pick up doing the degree, um, because a lot of degrees I think can teach very much overlapping skills.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of it is also the personal maturing during the time that you spend at college or university.
Hmm. Do you want to see the universities redeem themselves? Um, you said you there's that tension between alternative education and the existing establishment. What's your hope for the institutions that we know already?
I'm clearly on the side who hasn't given up on the existing institutions yet. So I'm just
Hmm.
kind of thinking along a few different lines, because one concern is that, again, one concern that I have, and I think many share that, is that the universities have kind of absorbed many other things other than the academic core function. I mean, if they do actually support the maturing of students and like actually getting through that phase of their life, maybe they're actually needed, and there's many of those services that are needed legally, right? Accommodation services and health services and things like that, or that are useful, like gyms and so on. So, and kind of even with that, I see this as distracting from the core function that I represent, the academic function, teaching and research. Although I can't dispute that many of these services and the administration that comes with it are needed. So I would certainly hope that we can kind of change things back, or ahead, to maybe focus back more on the academic side, adopt new forms of teaching and learn that we are experimenting with now. So, for example, I taught the course, um, as you know, via the
Hmm.
Discord app. That actually, that was inspired by student groups like yours who are using Discord as one of their platforms, which I hadn't used it until a few months earlier. And bring things like that back into the existing university, I think could help take it back if you want. I was thinking something else as well, which is more, I guess, more political. I think in terms of students who are currently excluded or not don't feel integrated. I think we also shouldn't give up on the university, but rather consider it. This is how I view my position at my university, that it is my position. So I'm not ready to give that up just because I don't like things right now. I'd rather, hold on to it and, put a foot down and say, I'm not doing this, or this is bad,
Hmm.
and here's my proposal for changing things. So I was thinking of maybe forming a club of the segregated students and faculty or something on campus, or joining one of the existing political groups that has to some extent spoken up against mandates, or take a role in our faculty union. And students obviously have the same types of opportunities.